to be that player. I want them to trust me. I'm the last guy in the line, so to say. So I want to be that defensive rock, so to say, and help my team out as much as possible.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome in. That was Michigan goaltender Eric Portillo. And thanks to the Michigan Hockey Twitter feed for the audio there as we get ready to get things underway here on Afternoon Live, the Maize and Blue Review, weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're a part of Rivals.com, and we talk about the latest in Michigan sports. And that takes us to Boston, where tomorrow the Michigan hockey team will take on Denver at 5 o'clock. And here to talk a little bit about the Wolverines is their former head coach, Red Berenson, who we're happy to have here on the broadcast. Red, how are you?
I'm good, Dennis. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. Just waiting around for tomorrow till they drop the puck. And Red, if I would have talked to you, 6 months ago, I would have said, hey, I would expect this team to be in Boston. That kind of your expectation as well. This team has had off the charts expectations since they put their skates on the ice.
Well, I think that it all started during the draft, Dennis, as you know, and Michigan had, I think, 4 of the top 5 picks in the draft, in the NHL draft, and that's not only unusual, it's the first ever. So pretty good players on paper, and now these are young players that get a chance to prove themselves against the best teams. Now, it's not like they haven't played good teams before. I mean, they went into Duluth and beat them in the icebreaker tournament. They played UMass, who had won the national championship last year, and swept them in Ann Arbor. The Big Ten is full of good teams. And, of course, Minnesota is the other Big Ten school here. And Michigan and Minnesota went head-to-head all year, and there wasn't much to choose between the teams. So I'm not surprised. They've had their ups and downs. They're a young team, but are they good enough to win it? Yes, they are. But I also think the other 3 teams here in the Frozen Four are good enough to win it as well.
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing Minnesota. That mean Michigan would win, and then you would see them on Saturday night. I really liked Strauss-Mann, who was the goaltender before Portillo, who we heard there at the outset. But Portillo's really separated himself here. He was the most outstanding player in the Big Ten tournament, which Michigan won, and he's been terrific. He's a big goaltender, 6'6", and I heard Mel just recently, I guess this past Saturday, saying he thinks he's the best goalie in the country. That's high praise, and that's what you're looking for to kind of win this thing.
Well, he's probably the best player that we've seen this year in terms of an MVP type player for his team, even though Michigan is a star-studded team. I mean, I've seen Portillo have to stand on his head to keep them in the game. And Mel will often say he's our MVP. So I would go along with that. He's a terrific kid. He's a spirited leader on the team, even though he's a goalie, and definitely has made some big saves. So we'll see how he plays this weekend. But the team with the best goalie usually wins. So we'll see how it goes.
Red, if I take you back, 24 years ago, that was 98. You were in Boston. Michigan won the championship there. You go back to 96. You won it in Cincinnati. You had Marty Turco in the net there. But I think 97 might have been your best team. But on the opposite sides of that, you win the national championship. So we know it's not always the best team here. I wonder, you went to 11 Frozen Fours. When you get there, do you keep things as normal as possible, knowing the circumstances, or do you handle things differently when you had the young team? You got the experienced goaltender, or if you're Mel, you've got these 7 first-round picks. Do you handle things differently as a coach?
Well, I think we're all learning. I mean, when we went to our first Frozen Four, I think the coaches and the players were more excited than if we would have been in the Stanley Cup Finals. It was such an achievement. And of course, we didn't play our best, and we lost out in somewhat unpredictable style. But it seemed like every game came down to overtime, whether it was 1, 2, or 3 overtimes. So we had a lot of head shaking to do as players. We questioned our players and quizzed them at the end of the year. Why did we win, or why didn't we win? and so on. And so I think we were learning along the way about the culture of our team. Mel's team's been in a lot of big games this year, but Mel has been in several of those Frozen Fours with Michigan, and he knows the difference between being on a trip that everyone's praising you and telling you how good you are and being on a business trip. And I think our team had to learn that. When we went to Cincinnati, we had our hearts broken against Maine the year before in Providence. And when we went to Cincinnati, it was all business. And right from the players to the coaches, there was no distractions. There were no calling girlfriends or parents or anything like that. We were there on one mission, and we accomplished it. And I think if this team can do that, they'll have a good weekend.
Hey, you mentioned the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is the best thing and maybe the worst thing about the NCAA tournament. It's like every game is a game 7. So when you have that type of situation here, and so much is at stake, what are some of the things that you emphasize as a coach, and what do you think Mel over the next 24 hours will be emphasizing to his team?
Well, if it were me, and Mel, he knows the game and he knows his team, but I think he'll be telling his team what they have to do to play their best. And it's not just winning. I mean, if you talk about winning all the time, the players are wondering, well, what do we need to do to win? And if you do A, B, and C, and he'll give them, I'm sure, a checklist of things. These are the things that we have to do. And the bottom line is, when you walk in that building as a player, you need to know the team needs you to have a good game. Whether you're the goalie or a leading scorer or you're a fourth line checker or a penalty killer, whatever your role is, you have to be a star in that role tonight. And then we'll worry about winning when the game's over.
Stylistically, Denver in this game will take place. They'll drop the puck tomorrow at 5:00 in Boston. I hear that Denver is very comparable to Michigan in the way they want to play. They want to skate fast, get up and down, a lot of shots. Is it from you taking a look at it on the outside? If you just hear you have a very similar team as your team, what does that say to you?
Well, I think it's going to be a great game. That's what it says. I mean, these teams are both going to play hockey, and they're both playing to win. Some teams play not to lose, and some teams play to win. Michigan plays to win, and Denver plays to win. So you're going to see the best of these teams challenging the other team's defense and challenging the other team's goalie. And I don't think any coach wants to see an 8-7 game, but you never know when you get to a game like this.
I want to ask you a couple of things. You mentioned that first time that you had to the Frozen Four and the excitement there, and then you win it in 96 and 98. Out of all the different accomplishments, is there a couple of those moments that stand out for you when you think back, coaching at Michigan for 33 years?
Well, there's so many, Dennis. When I look back, the main thing that I'm proud of is the players that have gone through the program and the kind of people they've become. They're not necessarily playing on TV every weekend. I'm proud of those guys too. But the players that have really made something of themselves, we've got people that are doctors and lawyers and teachers and coaches and on and on. But they're good people. They've really had a lasting friendship with Michigan and each other. And that's been really rewarding for me to see.
Now, if I could ask you, the last time that I saw you previous to today was back on opening night of the NHL season, and it was a big surprise. They named Dylan Larkin, the former Wolverine, as the captain, but then all of the former Red Wing captains, including yourself, were out there at center ice for the pregame ceremony. When did you find out about that? What was that night like? What was that experience like for you?
It was great. The former captains, I mean, the oldest was Alex Delvecchio, and they all came, of course, Steve Yzerman, but Lidstrom and Zetterberg came back from Sweden. And then you had the local guys like Dennis Hextall and so on, myself. But it was a tribute to Dylan, and just to show him our support, and also a tribute to the Red Wing organization for including everyone and trying to help the Red Wings get through a tough time in their rebuild.
Yep. Well, they seem to be doing a pretty good job. They're getting some pretty good players. Steve Yzerman is. If I could ask you another question, was it last year, maybe even the year before? The Big Ten Network did, I guess it was kind of a documentary, a story, your story, the Michigan Man. I watched that. It was amazing. Tell me what that experience was like for you.
Well, it wasn't something I was forcing or pushing for them to do, but they seemed to want to do it. And I think they did a great job. They captured more than just the wins and losses on the ice. They captured a little bit of history and background, family stuff, the ups and downs of my career. And it wasn't just up, there were a lot of downs, and especially, and even with our players. So you saw the description of Scotty Matska's experience when he got ALS. You saw the experience my son Gordy had when he had an accident and a closed head injury, and how it turned out Chris Fox, one of our former players and now a neurosurgeon, was available to help in saving Gordy's life, and so on. So it was it was a heartbreaking and heartwarming story all in one.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, I had heard about, I guess I'd call it the infamous a canoe trip that you take, friends and, former players on. And to see some of that video, it was pretty amazing, like to see the vehicles and just the rough terrain. It was really, I got to believe that you had to get stuck probably, a dozen times trying to take an off-road vehicle back what looked like swampy, like you couldn't even make it through there. That's what jumped out to me with watching that particular canoe trip. That pretty much captured it, huh?
Well, that was definitely part of the trip. We've gone in by train, we've flown in, and we've gone in by off-road vehicles, getting up to the headwaters of a river and then paddling down to where we can get out. But they've been pretty much wilderness trips. The players that we've taken have really liked it. In fact, one player, Mike Moose from Burlington, Ontario, he liked it so much he persuaded his dad to come the next year. So we've had a real assortment of Michigan players come, and they've all loved it. So it's been a challenge for all of us. And of course, I'm getting up there now, so I'm not sure whether we're going again this year, but COVID has really slowed us down.
I hear you on that. Last time I saw you was 2 years ago at the Yost Ice Arena, and I hadn't been to a game since just last Saturday was my first one because of all that. I've got two really quick ones for you. What will this team do for the next, just over, 29 hours until they're dropping the puck around there? What's it like the day before in a big city when you're, trying to get to the championship game?
Well, I'm not sure what their itinerary is, but it's not like they're going to be out sightseeing and going to museums and enjoying all the history that Boston has to offer. I think it'll be minimized. They'll have, of course, team events, team dinners, team this, team that, meetings, video. There'll be a part where the coaches will probably read the team's mood and either back off on the video and on the inspiration part and just focus on what we have to do. We know we're good enough. We know what to do. We're going to get a good night's rest. We'll get up tomorrow. It'll be a game day, and we'll have a regular routine. And I think that's what most of the players rely on for their part of their confidence, and just part of their preparation is to be in a good routine and have the privacy you need. They'll probably go for walks and go this and that. Right now I'm in Boston. It's kind of rainy and cold in the 40s. So, and cloudy, obviously. So it's not a pretty day. I'm watching a boat go down the Charles River right now. And it looks like a tourist boat with nobody on it except the driver. So it's one of those days in Boston. A good day to play hockey.
Yeah, it sounds like the weather outside here in Washtenaw County. That's what it looks like outside the studio window here. Red, finally, you coached for 33 years. And when you go and watch the game, how many years, how long did it take to settle into an observer role where, you're not the coach and, you're watching the game? How long did that take?
Well, It didn't take long. I was ready to retire. I mean, I was age 77 when I retired, and I'd been there 33 years, and I'd worked with 9 different athletic directors, and they were all great. But Ward Manuel was the most recent one, and still is, obviously. And I wanted to retire the year before, and we had a great team, I think, in 2016. But Ward wanted one more year, and so I came back for one more year. So I was ready. So I haven't missed coaching, and I'm still a big hockey fan. I watch all the Red Wing games. I watch all the Michigan games. I go to all the home games, and I don't bother the coaches and I don't bother the players, but I really enjoy it. I'm still a part-time employee with Michigan in terms of helping Ward fund all the endowment scholarships for hockey. And I'm also working with the Big Ten as an advisor to the main commissioner, of course, Kevin Warren. And so I'm a Big Ten fan as well. So right now I'm wearing 2 hats here at the Frozen Four with Michigan and Minnesota in the Big Ten. And of course, Michigan having had a great year and the #1 seed.
Well, great. I wouldn't mind seeing the Gophers there again. Means Michigan would be there. I like Matska, their head coach, as well. So that would be fantastic for Saturday night for hockey fans and for Big Ten fans. Red, it's always a great time catching up with you. All the best. Enjoy the rest of the rainy day today, and enjoy the hockey tomorrow.
Thanks, Dennis, and you too.
All right. Great to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. There he is, Red Berenson, joining us here, ready for that game tomorrow, like a lot of hockey fans. Waiting around, waiting to see what's going to happen when they drop the puck at 5 o'clock, and then clearing their plans for Saturday night, which could be a championship for the Wolverines on the ice. I wanted to thank the guys over at Valiant, and that includes Jared Wengler, their CEO. Jared helped us out with our grand prize for our survival pool on the Maize and Blue review. And for those winners, I can tell you those prizes just went out. So those ought to be hitting the mailbox shortly. So thanks to the Valiant Management Group. You know them with a lot of different things, but here is the hat, the Michigan versus everybody, which is very popular. All right, we'll be with you tomorrow, talking a little bit more about the game that'll be coming up. We're always talking about the latest in Michigan sports, thanks to Red Berenson, and everybody and it is, it wasn't supposed to be raining this morning. It was supposed to rain right around now, and then I went out, and guess what? It started raining. So we'll see what it's going to be like here for the rest of the day. You enjoy yours. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow